let's go from the positive of the Discord to the negative with the Vancouver Canucks and how things are going pretty bad for them. They're on a 4-game winless streak. They almost had back-to-back games where they allowed 7 goals. They had 2, and then they lost to the Anaheim Ducks and they allowed 5. Why are, not to just kind of be blunt with it, but why are the Vancouver Canucks so bad?
Do you know what's funny? I'll start with a tangent, but
yeah,
I was out for my morning run this morning, like 7 a.m. on the Toronto waterfront, and I ran by a guy in a Canucks jersey who was also running. And I was like, man, that is a Monday morning mood. Like, you're out here doing your work, supporting one of the worst teams in the league in another city, several thousand kilometers away.
Life must suck.
But I'm just thinking, like, if they had a little bit more of what that guy's bringing, things would be better, because obviously he's getting his work done. They're just a mess. I don't think that there's really any way around it. They've had sort of deep roster construction issues for years. They had cap problems as a result of that. They had too much money allocated to their bottom 6. Jim Benning made a sweep of moves in the offseason to try to address that, to shift some of that bad money out. And it just hasn't worked. And so to me, this is where the issue is. They've got like 3 significant problems. The roster construction issue, which has existed in time, and they were able to paper over at points, especially when Elias Pettersson and Quinn Hughes first came in the league, and they were turning heads and going bananas and making you not see some of the flaws because of how they could do it. Right. Well, unfortunately, especially in Pettersson's case, he, for whatever reason, I don't know if it's the injury last year, I don't have a sense what's going on there, but he's not able to do that right now. He's not looking like one of the best players in the game. And then the third one is they clearly have some degree of a coaching issue too. I mean, this team is last in penalty killing in the whole league. You have one of the worst power plays in the league. Sure, they might not be perfectly talented and perfectly built, but I just feel like that shouldn't be the case. And so you combine all of it together and it's like, whoa. And the reason I think it hits harder is because this isn't Arizona, man. Like, Arizona, they didn't really plan on winning a lot of games this year. I'm sure they're not having much fun there, but obviously they've stocked up. They got tons of draft picks in the next draft in 2022. Vancouver was trying to be good this year. And so I think it hits harder. Obviously the chaos is at a different level too in a Canadian market where people burn and care so much about the team when this falls apart. But, I have to feel some kind of change is coming there. I don't know. Like, there's been so much talk. I don't know if it's Jim Benning and Travis Green, Jim Benning or Travis Green and not Jim. But, I can't imagine with them coming home to play a game Wednesday against Colorado. Like, that, like, tune in. I know it's late here on the East Coast but I want to watch that game. Like, because this is a notoriously passionate fan base. And based on my Twitter feed, they are up in arms right now. And so I think the organization's under a tremendous amount of pressure to make some moves and fixes. Because again, they're supposed to be good and they are just terrible out of the gates.
I feel as if like Travis Green has to be the first domino to fall, right? Like I could see a scenario where it's both Benning and Green, but it has to be at least coaching first, right? Because you already extended Hughes and Pettersson. They're supposed to be a good core. The players are supposed to work. So coaching has to be it, right?
It might be, but if that happens, I'll go back to, it's just literally just because that's how sports works. It always seems to be easier to swap out a coach. It's funny. There's been a lot of research done on this that like changing a coach actually doesn't generally change anything. Usually, put it this way, depends how analytically minded you are, but usually when a team is not performing well, sometimes it looks worse than it actually is, right? They're getting PDO'd. And then the new guy comes in and things start to correct as they probably would have if you had stayed patient, and the team might win a few more games. Look, we've seen it in Chicago. Derek King, the Blackhawks have won 3 games under him since Jeremy Colleton was fired a week ago. Maybe that would have happened. Maybe they weren't a 1-11 team or whatever they were when Colleton was fired. And so, yeah, I could see a coaching change because that is probably easiest. They have Bradshaw on their bench right now, a very experienced veteran assistant coach, known for actually coaching defense and penalty killing. He did great work in St. Louis and Columbus with both of those 2 teams, his prior 2 stops. And so I think something like that could make sense just to slide him into the main seat, even on an interim basis. But, I do believe that it would be foolish if that's how it plays out to think that, okay, this is just a coaching issue and everything will self-correct. Like, I think there are much deeper issues that organization has to address, and they need to make a plan about how they plan to address them. I mean, look, they got the Sedins now working for them. Like, I wonder if this is part of the future going forward. Now, those guys don't have a ton of front office experience yet, so I'm not saying you make one of them the president and one the GM or something like that. But, I think that you lean on their experience, and, I think they've got to chart a way forward. And unfortunately, it probably means people are going to lose their jobs. I mean, I just think that that's kind of the inevitability of the situation right now.
Before we finish the podcast, I have a Sedin related hypothetical for you. And I don't think I asked you this. I've asked a whole bunch of my other friends about this. I'll make sure to ask this hypothetical to you before the end of the episode. I want to give a hat tip to Lauren Kelly of Sportsnet, who you actually found this tweet. She did a screen grab, I think, of the latest Canucks game, and it shows a stat, highest percentage of time trailing this season. The Canucks are second in the league as they've trailed 52.9% of the time in their games. And I'm mentioning this specific screen grab because right next to that grab, you see Travis Green with the meanest scowl possible. I laughed my ass off at that. It's hilarious.
Yeah. I mean, trailing hockey is losing hockey, right? I mean, if you take the opposite side of that, the best teams at the end of the season in terms of points are usually the ones that lead the most. I mean, it's sort of obvious, but teams can play differently when they're ahead, right? Especially good teams. And I think that they can play much more structured and not have to cheat for offense or anything like that. When you're always behind, that's when, especially your star players put it on their shoulders, maybe take more risks, create more turnovers. And then you see all the pucks go in the net the other end. So yeah, like there's not a stat there's like not one single stat out there, Julian, that paints this Canucks start in a better light. Like you're not just saying, oh, it's just this one thing. And if they correct that, like it's systemic. And I think that that's why it is, as much as we joke about the Vancouver marketplace and stuff being a little bit over the top with the reactions, like I don't think the fans are that unjustified here, because I really do believe this is a deep, deep issue. And it's not just to make one trade and fix everything or replace this coach with that coach and everything will be fine. I think it's much, much deeper.
For sure. One of my good friends is Sam Chang of the Broadcast Podcast out in BC. And her thoughts and feelings on the Canucks basically border on apathetic at this point. And I'm pretty sure a lot of Canucks fans feel the same.
And that is the kind of thing. Let's remember, we're still sort of emerging from a pandemic league-wide, right? Mm-hmm. And in a lot of markets, like even strong markets like traditionally strong markets like Vancouver, if your fans are turning to apathy, I think there's even more pressure because there just hasn't been an opportunity to make money, right? I mean, like last year, the Canucks were bad as well, but they didn't sell a ticket because of the rules and legislations in Canada. Well, they're trying to sell tickets now. They're not selling out. Basically, every team across Canada has had empty seats, like way more than we typically see in a season. And so there's business challenges here too. And so you got to weigh the two, right? Do you want to fire someone and have to pay them millions of dollars not to work? Because that's part of a business challenge. Well, you have to pay someone else potentially $1 million or what have you to replace them. Or do you have to take that action because you want your fans on board? I mean, you're selling winning or you're selling the hope of winning, right? And when you're caught in the middle and you're not winning and there's no reason to hope for wins to come, it's a really tough business to market pro sports.
Exactly. To that graph I mentioned earlier, with the highest percentage of time trailing, for those people just curious, the Canucks are second. The Coyotes are first at 56.6%. The Kraken are fourth at 45.2%. You'll understand why I'm going out of order very soon. The third place team in that are the Montreal Canadiens at 48.3%. There's another Canadian market team that a lot of people expected them to be at least a little bit better.